Hello, everybody. Hi. Welcome to clue number 5. Y'all, we are in week number 5. Can you believe it? Hi, everybody. It's so great to see you. I see we are coming in from all over the world. Hello. It's so great to see you. Thanks for hanging out with us. Let's answer Tina's question because I was scrolling through the questions real quick before we started. Tina asked, how many weeks? How many clues are there? How many weeks are we going to do this quilt? 15 weeks. There are 15 clues. We might go a 16th week, maybe catching up, or if there's a lot of questions, or maybe who knows what, we might carry it into a 16th week. However, there are 15 clues to this mystery quilt. Hi, everybody. It's so great to see you. Hello, everybody. Clue number 5. Today we're doing some applique. I'm doing raw edge applique. I know some of you are doing turned edge applique. Some of you are hand sewing your applique, which is really awesome. It's been a lot of fun to watch all of your progress over on Creative Crew. Celeste, thank you so much. Truth. And you will also see that tonight we're going to hold a Zoom over on Creative Crew. I'm only going to do it for about an hour. So if you want to come hang out with everybody, the link will be on the Creative Crew. I know Mary Jo said 6 to 7 weeks. We're a little bit more than that. A few more clues than that. So yeah, if you want to hang out, we're going to try to keep the topic about the mystery quilt. If you have questions about any of the clues we've done so far, feel free to pop in, say hello, and yeah, we'll do a Q&A about the mystery quilt so far. Creative Crew. All right, let's switch on over to the cutting mat. Many of you have already downloaded your PDF for clue number 5. This week, there is an SVG file for those who have cutting machines. The link for that is in the description box down below. Last week, when I mentioned this is what I would think would be kind of like a catch-up week, right? Because there's only a few things to do this week. And I imagine for some of you, some of you might already be done with this week. But for some of you who are really quick with stitching, this is going to be a really light week. So if you're like me and you're still sewing your pieces from last week, this is a great week to catch up, right? Because it's very, very light. Matter of fact, I've already done 3 of my blocks. Let me just pull in a finished one. Isn't that so pretty? Wow. So we're going to be working on this one together, right? So we're bringing in the 4 middle blocks that we cut during clue 1. And in another one of the clues, we did the stem and the leaves, right? So this week we're doing the flowers and the 2 centers, right? Yay, that's what we're doing. In the PDF, I did it so that if you want to print this sheet out on freezer paper or heat and bond, you wouldn't have to trace any of your pieces, right? If you cut a sheet that's 8.5 by 11, make sure to choose actual size when printing. But yeah, you could just print this right out, right? That's for the raw edge version, which I'm doing. And then I did do the templates as a turned edge. If you want to use those, you can. They're there. And then we have the template on the very last page, which is going to help us line up and position all of these pieces so that on each one of these 4 blocks, they're exactly in the same place, right? So we're going very symmetrical. Is that the right word? So that all the pieces are exactly in the right same place on all 4 blocks, right? All right, so let's see. Where do we want to start? I used the SVG, and I cut my pieces out using my brother's Scan and Cut. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, and I've had a few people who have a Cricut, and they contact me because when they pull up their SVG in Design Space, it looks like it's a different size. And I'm not sure exactly why. Sometimes Design Space will resize cutting files, and I'm not sure, and I've tried to figure out different ways to save them so that it doesn't do that, but it seems to be that that is a common issue throughout working with Design Space. So one thing I did want to mention, if you are using the SVG files for this or any of my other patterns, right? One thing that you can do to resize your SVGs or to check that they're the right size is just to measure any of the templates, you know, like this page, right? Just go ahead and measure it. And that will give you an accurate size so that you can make sure that your SVG is correct before you cut it, right? Just measure both ways and you can resize it. I know many of you have already figured that out. But I am still getting messages. And specifically with the orange peel clue, that one comes in Design Space a different size. So I always recommend just checking the measurements. Measure one of your stencils on the pages and just check the size that way. Okay, let's get this iron turned on. There we go. I'm going to use this last page. Let me just take that off. I don't want those to go too far because at the end we're going to put all 4 blocks together and just kind of get a preview of what the center of this quilt's going to look like, right? And I need a power cord. Hold on one second, y'all. So what I've been doing, you could use a window or a light pad or any other way. You know, there's a lot of different ways to just be able to see through the fabric to line this up, right? So I'm just going to use my light pad here. And this last page has 2 lines, right, that form the edge of our block. And if we just line up the edge of our fabric right along those lines, that's going to give us the same placement on all 4 of our blocks, right? So I'm going to use a heat erasing pen and just give myself some reference marks. And I really only have to just do right along the bottom, right? You could trace the whole thing if you wanted to. And this is just going to make sure that we have the same looking pieces all the way around, right? So that goes by pretty quick. Ooh, somebody's getting snow. Peg, you're getting snow? Today it is rainy, rainy, dark. All right, can you see just the little outline, right? Just along the bottom. That's where we're going to line up these pieces today. And I'm going to bring in, I have the last 2 pieces we're fusing right into place, right there. And what I did is I just fused down the flower first and eyeballed the center, right? My main concern is that all the flowers are exactly in the same place. So like that. And turned exactly the same. There we go. So I'm just going to hold those down with my finger for just a second so they don't shift around. And I'm going to quickly just do an initial press so these don't move. And then we'll place the center of the flowers on there and then really press it. I don't want to over press that fusible too much, right? Just a little bit. And then we can bring in these centers. One goes there. And one goes there. Just like that. Doesn't that really pop on that burgundy or red fabric? All right, now I'm going to really just give them a good little press. I know Heat and Bond Light says not to use steam, but I like to use steam, just a little quick burst. And then we're going to let that cool off. So one of the things that we talked about when we did the leaves and the stems, right, was using some kind of tearaway stabilizer on the back. So again, today, I just have 2 pages of a phone book. You could use coffee filters. You could use actual tearaway stabilizer. If you have some, yeah, all different things that you could use as a stabilizer. And what that's really going to do is just support this background fabric and to keep it everything nice and flat. And yeah, we're going to let that cool off for just a second. So what I've done is I've picked 2 threads for this clue. I have, let me see. I have, what is this called? Doesn't have a name. Hold on a second. It doesn't have a name. It's kind of like a taupe. It's not gray. It's not brown. It's kind of like a taupe color, but it's really close to the little floral print in the A fabric. So that's what I'm going to use for stitching down my flower. And then I have this really light teal or sea green color, sea foam color, that I'm going to use to stitch down the little centers of the flowers. And I think that really turns out great. I am going to be using a blanket stitch again on these pieces, and there's several different stitches you could use, right? But can you see that? Isn't that pretty? That's the look we're going for right there. Or at least I am with my blocks. I think a zigzag stitch would work just as well, right? I use a mix of different threads all the time. You might not want to do what I do, but this is actually a polyester thread that I'm using today. I think if you have embroidery thread, that would be gorgeous. Trinita, it's your quilt. If you want to swap out the flowers for a die that you have, absolutely, you could do that. Hold on a second. Christine says, I'm a little confused. The templates say fabric B, but the directions also say to fuse to the back of fabric C. Hold on a second. Let's just take a look. It might be that I forgot to change out the letters. Okay, we have, hold on, let me get my fabric sheet so I know which ones we're talking about here. Today we are using where's my fabric sheet? Y'all give me a second. Oh, here we go. I'm surprised I'm this organized. We have been packing and packing and packing. My studio is so clean. It's the cleanest my studio has been in 3 years. All right, so in this clue, we are using B for the flowers, and we're using E for the centers. I did not swap out the little letter. These are the same instructions for fusing as this right here, and I just missed that. So today we're using B and C fabrics, or B and E. B and E. B and E. This is a typo, y'all. It happens. All right. So let's move over to the sewing machine. I am using a blanket stitch today. A little tiny blanket stitch. Matter of fact, it's so tiny. You might not be able to see it. I zoomed in. Hopefully close enough you can see what I'm doing without it being like too much. The blanket stitch I'm using is a 1.8 in the width and a 1.8 in the length. So it's tiny. Of course, those settings might look different on your machine. So if you're looking for a place to start, you could check that on some scraps with those settings and see what you think. And then make adjustments from there if you want something that's close to what I'm doing, right? So we're going to bring this in. And I'm going to start with the flowers first and just anchor those in place. And then we'll change the thread and we'll do the centers. I did wind a bobbin with the same exact thread that I'm using on the top, right? And yep, here we go. We're going to be stitching for a few minutes. As we get started, I just want to thank my moderators for keeping an eye on the chat while I am stitching away. I always take a few really slow stitches to get started. I'm hoping in my next studio, I have really tall ceilings in here. In my next studio, when I move, like I'll have something that comes down from the ceiling and gets the view that I see instead of from the side. Wouldn't that be cool? You can bring this thread, the little starting thread, back to the back of your block and tie that off if your machine does not do a knot for you. See, I don't even know that you can see those stitches. They're going to start showing up right around here. Even though this thread color is a completely different color than my flower, it's really just kind of blending in. These flowers just do overlap these stems right there, just a tiny bit. Oops, I went too far. I'm just going to raise that needle up and just move ever so slightly. Right there. Can you see that? It's really just blending in really nicely, isn't it? It almost puts like a nice little border around there that makes it stand out, but isn't really obvious. Ooh, I ordered some new needles. I got them in yesterday. All right, I like to pass where I start just by a couple of stitches. And then my machine has the thread cutter, which typically I don't like to use, but I'm going to go ahead and use it. And that does a little knot on the back. If yours does not do that, you'd pull it away, right? And bury all your threads to the back, tie them off in a knot, and then you can trim them away. We're going to jump right over here, and we're going to do the little stitch around this flower. I'm going to try to go a little bit faster on this one. I wonder if maybe... Let's move you a little bit. The little paper catches the edges of my tray, of my table there. I probably could have used the same thread for all of these applique pieces. I think that would have been much more simple. It's very neutral. Working ourselves all the way around. Right here is where we started, so we're almost there. Alright, so we have the outline or the edges of the two flowers stitched down. Isn't that pretty? See what I mean? See it? It kind of does a little border, but without it being really obvious, right? That's really pretty. Okay, so let's pull this bobbin out. I already have a bobbin with that light seafoam color. Let's switch these colors out real quick. We're going to put this one in the bobbin. And we're going to take out that top thread. I always like to pull my thread off from the needle side instead of pulling it back up. That's just me. And let's put this light color. We're going to use this for the centers. It's not exactly the same, but it's the closest that I had. Sushi, Tushi. My cat's in here. I have to baby talk to her. She's been sleeping in here a lot lately. I think she's very flustered with all of this moving stuff. So she spends her day, I don't know if you can see her or not. See her right there? That's where she is. She sleeps there all day with me. I can use my needle threader, but for me it's just as easy to thread that needle. And so there we go. We're going to go ahead and stitch down the center of these flowers. And then I'll show you how easy it is just to tear these two layers off. All right, we're going to go through and I'm going to use the same blanket stitch, 1.8 in the width and 1.8 in the length. Notice I just take my time. Those are really tiny, tiny stitches, right? I'm just making sure, going nice and slow, that because it only goes over so much, right? It's a tiny little stitch that it's actually going into that applique fabric and stitching it down, right? If you're not comfortable using a smaller stitch like that, there's plenty of room here to do a bigger stitch. Alright, that's really quick, right? We're going to go over and do the second one. I start off those first couple little stitches just in case the thread wants to come undone or it wants to make a little knot on the back or something. I like to just go nice and slow and let those first couple of stitches really just get laid in there and get that thread going, right? So there we go. There's the 2 flowers and the 2 centers. And then you're repeating that on the 3 other blocks, right? So you're doing a total of 8 flowers and 8 centers. And I think even if you are really, really, really slow at stitching, I think that this should be a lighter week. And so if you're still doing clues from previous weeks, that's one of the reasons I said this might be a really great catch-up week. I know for me it will be because I'm still working on last week's paper piecing blocks. Well, I'm doing mine as paper piecing. And I'm still working on it, y'all. Our house went on the market yesterday, and we have an open house tomorrow and 2 showings after that. So, I'm staying real tidy and nice and clean, which is not normal. No one lives in a house and has everything exactly spotless. Do you know how hard that is to do? So, yeah, that's our life right now. Linda said, when you stop to pivot, what side is your needle on? With a blanket stitch, Linda. Let me show you. So the needle travels right along in the background, right? It does the straight part of the stitch in the background right next to the applique. And when it stitches over to the left, that's when we're taking a bite or taking a stitch into the applique. Whenever I need to do a hard pivot, right? I mean, I can do some curves without stopping, but anytime I stop and want to do a sharper turn, I always make sure that I stop with my needle in the right position, in the background, and not in the applique, right? So with the blanket stitch, it travels forward, goes to the left and takes a stitch and comes back to the right. When it's in that right position, that's when you want to stop and pivot. Jacqueline said, do you mix stitches when doing applique? I do all the time. It just depends on the stitch that, you know, each stitch kind of gives you a different look, right? So far, I've done all blanket stitches with this portion, and they've all been really nice and tiny, right? But that's not to say, I mean, I know we can kind of guess something's going to go right up here, right? Whatever goes right up here, that's not to say that I might use a different stitch on that part. So far, I've done a blanket stitch, a really tiny one on all of this, but I don't know what I'm going to do up here, and I've always been fine with mixing my stitches to give a different look. I know there's some who would never do that, right? I think it's all based on a personal choice and what we like, right? Mimsy, yeah, it's been a while. How are you doing? Cheryl, that's good news about your test results. That's good. All right, let's just turn this around. So from the previous weeks, I did remove the paper backing as we went along. I'm going to leave that paper in my applique. I'm okay with that, but you could fuss over it and pull that out if you wanted to. And I'm just going to go ahead. I have 2 phone book pages here, right? And I'm just going to remove the extra. And I just kind of hold my finger right on those stitches and see how easy that tears away. There we go. There's that one. Now, if you are using a tearaway that is big enough to cover this area too, you might not want to tear this off as you're going along, right? Because it's obvious we're adding something up here, and if your tearaway covers that area, then you might not want to tear this off yet, right? Because we'll need something else right up here. My phone book pages is kind of a mini phone book, and so it wasn't going to cover that area anyway, so I just like to tidy it up as I go along. But see how my block lays nice and flat? That's the purpose of having something there to support that background fabric as you do your stitches. Isn't that so pretty? So Let's take a look-see. Let's move this over. Yeah, hello, Miss Sherry. Sherry said it's been fun getting vintage quilt tops from clients that still have pieces of newspaper in them. Yes. I've actually quilted a couple quilts that still had some newspaper in them. So let's just take a little quick peek of how this is coming along, right? This will be the very center of our quilt. Isn't that going to be so pretty? Isn't that so pretty? Like when you put it together like that? And see how using that guide on the last sheet really does help you get like the perfect placement so that everything's the same. Right? Isn't that so pretty? Y'all have been using some gorgeous colors. And I don't have favorites. I don't pick favorites. I'm going to tell you, I saw somebody is using it looks like a batik that has different colors running through the batik. So when you cut out of it, you know, you kind of have a yellow here and an orange there and a blue and a green, depending on where you're cutting in it. They did their leaves and their stems with that. And it had me wishing I had gone with batiks. This is really pretty too, though. Right? Isn't that pretty? Yes. Now, depending on, you know, like I said, depending on how fast you stitch yours, this is either going to be a super fast week for you, or if you're someone who's really new to applique, this might slow you down a little bit, right? And I will say that this tiny, tiny blanket stitch takes a minute to stitch it out. Because it actually throws down quite a few stitches in one little applique. Like, let me see if I can hold that up. See all those little stitches? That does take a minute to do that, right? If you pick a bigger stitch that is spaced out more than that, you're going to go through it faster. But here's the thing and the goal of it all, right? It's not a race. And I think one of the main reasons why a lot of people are following along with this quilt or quilting in general, right, is to have a retreat from all the things we do outside of this room, outside of your craft room, outside of your sewing. This is our getaway. So if it takes hours, that's like time that we can just escape all the other stuff we have going on, right? It is for me. Rory says, are we supposed to stitch the 4 pieces together? I would not stitch them together yet. I wouldn't stitch them together yet. I mean, I'm trying to keep the mystery of it. They might go together like this, right? They might not. They do. But here's the thing. Don't you think it's easier to work on this the way it is, maneuvering this in your sewing machine, versus putting it together like this and then having to fold all of this, right? I would not sew this together yet. Debbie said, Lisa, is it a good idea to use the tearaway on the back of clue number 2? Debbie, if you were having issues with any puckering, especially close to those corners, right, where that orange peel comes close to the corners, if you're having any puckering there, it wouldn't hurt to throw some stabilizer under there while you're stitching those down and then tear it out, right? That's why having a really cheap stabilizer like these phone book pages or newspaper print or coffee filters is a good thing, because you know you use it once unless you can use scraps, right? And we're just taking it right out as soon as we're done using it. But yeah, if it's going to help you not get any puckering, then absolutely you can use them. Me too. Yes, this is my this is my happy place, right? Sherry, you're going camping this weekend. We thought about bringing the camper over to a park that's really close to our house. Because like tomorrow, people are going to be here all day. And we have one cat that if you open any door, he wants to run out the door and catch the birds. So we don't want him to run away tomorrow. And we have our bird who gets excited. And well, y'all know how loud he is. And so we don't want to, it can be just really overwhelming when he gets going. And so we're thinking about taking the bird and one of our cats out of the house tomorrow when all these people are coming. So we thought we'd go to the camper and hang out there because it's going to be hours. Mount 563 says, I'm confused about the technique. Well, okay, so just to let you know, today was a really fast version because in previous videos up until now, I really went into detail about different ways to do the applique portion. Okay, so if you're just coming in, and it might be that I've missed your name before in other videos, and I'm really sorry if you've been there and commented before, but I'm thinking this might be the first time you're catching. There is a link to the playlist in the description box, and so you can go back. The videos will get shorter, and I'll explain less as we go along because I've already explained it. And so if you missed those videos, you can just go back and watch the replay, and I go into so much more detail, and so I don't have to do that each week, and we can just start stitching and keep the videos a little bit shorter as we go along. This is raw edge applique. And I used Heat and Bond Light, although Steam-A-Seam works great too. I mean, any of the fusibles that you would use for raw edge applique would work exactly the same. Laura said, I sold my house in 24 hours. Whoa. Yes, I know. So our house went on the market yesterday afternoon. We don't have a house to move to. So that's the thing, right? So that's a little stressful, but it's all good, right? We do have a little contingency in there that, you know, we can't close on this house until we have a house that we have a contract on. So it's like a big production. It's like a well choreographed dance, isn't it? Selling a house and buying another house. Like all these things have to happen in the right order. And it can be very overwhelming and very stressful, but it's also exciting. So, yeah, we have our open house tomorrow, and Sunday we're going to go look at some houses. Right now there's none that, like, we're super excited to see, though. So, I don't know. We did move. So, Terry, we moved 3.5 years ago. We're moving again. You can sew the flowers by machine or by hand. We're all different, right? We all like to create and do these things differently. And the awesome thing about doing something like this is there's so many options. I know that we have at least 2 that I know of. 2 people that are following along with this mystery quilt who are doing turned edge. They're doing the turned edge version, right? And so let me show you that because I don't know that you saw that. They're doing the turned edge version. So I did give templates for doing turned edge. And they're hand sewing all of their applique. And so, I mean, rightfully so, they're still working on clue number 2, I think. Or one of them is. And they're just really taking their time and they're having fun. And they're hand stitching all of the applique portions of this quilt. And then I know that a couple of you are doing turned edge versions of this, but sewing it down by machine instead of by hand. Where I do the quicker version and do it all raw edge applique and sew it down by machine. So there's lots of different ways to do it. None of them are any more right than the others. It's just what's right for you. Mimsy, yeah. We just moved here, I say just. It's been 3.5 years. Ellen, we have 2 cats. We have 3, right? One will run out the door if there's a door open. He's the one who's leaving the house with us. I have Sushi, and that's where she would be all day, every day. She is a day sleeper, and she's right there. And then we have Evie, who was pretty much feral when someone found her and took her to the Humane Society. And we adopted her. And she was only 9 weeks old or so when we adopted her. Or no. I forget how old she was. Anyway. She does not like strangers. And so if a door opens and she hears a voice that she doesn't know, you will not see her. She is a master hider. And no one would ever know she was in this house because you will not see her. If she doesn't know your voice, you won't know she's there. So, yeah, she'll be hiding. Sushi will be sleeping and Ashley will be with us. Oh yeah, see, Robin said, just going back and reading some of the comments. Robin said, I started with turned edge for clue 2, but then on clue 3, I did raw edge because it was faster. Yeah, I'm all for switching it up and doing a combination. Am I frozen? Jacqueline said you froze. I hope I'm not frozen. I might be frozen. We've had issues with our internet this week. So much so that 2 days ago we didn't have internet at all. And I was like, oh, glory. Here we go again. And the internet stayed off for about 12 hours. And today it seemed fine. I hope I'm fine. No, I'm not frozen. Yay. So this is where we are. I like applique. Do you like applique? I have paper pieced, I think it's 15 of clue number 4. And so I'm done now with clue number 5. And so I'm going to go back and work on clue number 4. And once I get that done, I'll be caught up until next week. And I'm not giving any hints about next week. We will just see what next week is on Friday morning, right? Ooh, Donna said, I'm shopping for a new machine with an 11-inch thread cutter, and built-in walking foot. Any suggestions? 11 inches. That's a good size throat space. Mine, I have a Juki HZL F600. It's got an 8-inch throat space, right? It's decent. I like it. Of course, 11 would be really awesome, but I manage pretty well with the 8 inches. I don't know. I would go search those specs on YouTube and see if you can find some review videos. Miss Mimsy, go to the playlist and go back to the very first video, and we go over all the different colors, but I think there's 5 colors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 colors. 5 colors for this quilt. Kim said, I am so glad I had a scan and cut for the stems. Me too. I used to be really, really good at fussy cutting. Like, it was my thing. I was really good at it, but as I get older, I just don't trust my hands so much. Mary said, applique is my favorite, and by hand as much as I can. I think I'm working on my patience for doing handwork. Once we get moved and settled, right, and I can just set stuff back up again, I really enjoy doing like hand embroidery work, and I've actually been getting much better with some of my stitches doing them by hand. But one thing for me is I'm not fast, I'm not quick with it, but it is something that I enjoy doing. Marla said, are you going to Expo? And if so, are you going to have a clue that week? Yes. That's next week, isn't it? I am going. Friday we're gonna be here at 12 noon, right? So some of you might be there and you might have to catch the clue on the replay if you need to, right? I do like to go Friday because it's a little less busy than Saturday. So I kind of have both Friday and Saturday planned on going. I'll probably do the live, and then once we're done here, head on down there, spend the afternoon looking around, and then Saturday, I'll probably go Saturday. Zinka said, I honestly thought I hated applique, but now I am loving it now that I am learning how to actually do it. I think that's been a lot of things for me. I used to hate doing binding. But I'm actually, now that I've learned how to do it pretty well, I don't hate doing binding anymore. Linda said, I did an applique wall hanging from another girl on YouTube. Can I show it on your channel here? Well, unfortunately, Linda, there's no place for you to share pictures in the live chat. But where you can show it is if you are in the creative crew. Absolutely. Feel free to share it. Wow, I miss so much of the chat. It goes by so fast. I just wish we still had sewing circles near me. It was fun sitting with other ladies and doing handwork, but life and work makes us all too busy now. I know. Right, Jane? Friday is a lot less busy. Gloria wants to know, does anybody have the Grace Cutie? She's been thinking about one due to space, but just saw another YouTube quilter say it not to purchase. What I would do is watch as many reviews about it as you can find, right? What doesn't work for them might work for you. What works for me might not work for you, right? Watch as many reviews, get as educated, find out as much as you can about it. Because, not everything is for everyone, right? And so I would just watch as much as you can find on it. Christine said, I hope next week is easy piecing with even measurements. I can't make any promises. I'm sorry. What is next week? Hold on. I'm going to take a peek, but I'm not giving any clues for next week. This is week 5. That's 6. You got it. It's nice and easy. I have a hard time keeping a secret. Heather said, I use the Zooms that Lisa and Vicky host as my sewing circle. Yeah, the last couple of Fridays, we've had things like planned to do in the evenings, right? Because we work during the day and we had all this stuff to do to get our house ready. But the Super Bowl Sunday, Vicky hosted a Zoom, and I was able to go in and hang out in that Zoom just a little bit, and that was fun. You know what else I've been thinking about doing? Quilt retreats. Don't you think that would be fun? Maybe. Ooh, Sherry says, I just booked a spot at the Wizardry Stitchery Retreat in May in Texas. Ooh, you go, girl. It's a bag making retreat. A bag making retreat. You know, Sherry, you could have retreats and teach how to do your bears. Right? Retreats. Wouldn't that be so much fun? Just something I'm tootling with the idea of. I also had an idea for a t-shirt quilt class. A t-shirt quilt class. I have people asking me all the time, would you hold a class and teach how to make t-shirt quilts? You know, I have lots of videos on it already. But some people would much rather have like a forum where they could ask me questions as we're going along, right? So it's a different kind of environment learning from. Something I'm thinking about. I feel like this week is so short. There really isn't much for me to update you on. Don't rush with this week. I know many of you are like me. You know, you have other things going on. But some of you just, as soon as the clue comes out, you're done. And then you have to wait all week till the next one. So kind of space it out. One of the cool things is our Patreon is doing our virtual quilt retreat on the 28th. Those are a lot of fun too, right? And I'll tell you one of the reasons why I like the virtual quilt retreats is because we don't have to pack up all of our stuff to go. It's a lot less work going to a virtual retreat like that. And, you know, you don't have to, you can just be comfortable in your own surroundings. And when you're done, you just go get in your own bed. And there's no airfare and there's no travel cost and all of that stuff for a retreat. I'm kind of digging the virtual retreats, to be really honest with you. I'm not sure yet, Sheila. I'm not sure. Peggy, we use Zoom to do our virtual retreats. That's what I do. And it's so much fun because we just can come and go throughout the day, right? And the Patreon quilting retreat is there's no structure, right? So we all just come in and we're working on our own stuff. Like some people will work on this and some people are binding a quilt and some people are working on a totally different quilt. Some people are crocheting, right? And some people are just there for the company and they're not working on anything and they're just chit-chatting with everybody who's there. And we'll have some that leave and go to lunch and come back and or go downstairs and make a sandwich and bring it back. And, you know, we eat lunch while we're here. It's pretty fun. I do use EQ8. I love it. It's something I'm relatively new in. I got EQ8 5 or 6 months ago, but I just dove into it, right? Because there's so much to learn. But yes, EQ8, that's awesome. Yeah, Vicky's was making slippers in one of the quilting retreats. Sheila, for the Patreon quilt retreat is one time a month, and then we do a nightly Zoom one time a month now. Which that Zoom is a lot shorter than the quilt retreat, and the quilt retreat is usually quite a long, several hours, like 2 to 8 or 1 to 9, something like that. EQ8 is a software where you can design quilts. It's pretty awesome. Type in EQ8 in the search bar on YouTube. Lots and lots of video tutorials how to learn it. Peggy, so yeah, we do Zooms. I guess you could call them retreats, couldn't you? I mean, it's all of us coming together over on Creative Crew too. Vicky likes to host them sometimes. Sometimes I'll host them. I guess you could call those retreats too, right? And sometimes, like the one I'm holding tonight, and you'll see the time right here. That one's kind of structured, and we're going to try to keep the topic really on the mystery quilt. So if you have questions from the beginning up through clue number 5, it would be a great time to come and ask your questions. You can just come and hang out with us, but we're going to try to keep it about an hour long, with the focus being on the mystery quilt. But a lot of the Zooms we host on Creative Crew, we're all just doing random things. Vicki says she's going to host one Sunday. Jane, you are so funny. No, it won't be about NASCAR. Vicki hosts them usually to get away from the sports and the NASCAR. Like her Zoom that she held last Sunday was a no Super Bowl Zoom. So, like, we went there to not talk about the Super Bowl. Peggy, if you joined the very first Zoom we did about the mystery quilt, that was the most attended Zoom I've ever hosted. And there were a lot of people there. Most everyone was very excited, and it can be very chaotic from time to time. Patreon is a much smaller group. And usually the Zooms we do not have that many people in there. There was a lot of people in that Zoom. That was the biggest Zoom I've ever hosted. And there are things that I could do, right, to kind of control all of the talking. Like I could mute everyone, and then like put your hand up if you have a question. There's a virtual button you can push if you have a question that puts a hand up. But these Zooms are kind of informal Zooms. If I was teaching a class where people were paying to attend it, then absolutely I would make sure that it's way less chaotic. All right, everybody. Well, if you have a chance to join our informal, formal Zoom tonight, we would love to see you there. We're only going to keep it about an hour tonight because I'm going to bed early so I can get up and re-clean this house again before we take off for the day. Yeah, if you're watching on the replay, thanks for hanging out. And I hope that you are enjoying this quilt. I hope it is something that is not bringing you stress and anxiety, right? If you're feeling stressed out over this quilt, just take a break from it, right? If you're feeling stressed out because you are not done with your clues and we're already on week 5, it's not supposed to be like that. Take that off of your shoulders and you work at your own pace. And even if you are still on clue number 1 and we are starting clue number 6 next week, do not let that cause you stress. Work in your own pace, go at your own speed, and enjoy the process. Okay, there's going to be some of us who are done the day the last clue comes out. And there's going to be some of us who are working on this quilt next year, this time next year. So I don't care where you fall in that category. It's not a race. It does not matter how fast you're working. It only matters, are you having fun? Is this bringing you joy? And if that answer is yes, then you work however fast or however slow that you work, right? Do not be stressed out if you are not currently on the clue that we're working on. That's just my little mental note for you all. I love you so much. I was going to say I'll see y'all at the quilt show, but I'll actually see you that Friday before I go. So, all right, everybody. Have fun. Be careful out there, y'all. There's some crazy stuff going on in this world. I hope that everybody's staying safe. And I love you so much. I'll see y'all tonight, okay? Ta-da, I'll see you tonight. If I missed your comments or your questions, I'm so sorry. Thank you, all my moderators, before I go again. Bye.